All right, everybody, on your marks, get set, let's go. Hello, everybody. What's happening? Oh my gosh, here we are again. You know, we really need to keep meeting like this. Everybody, welcome to another installment, yet another edition of Work Your Career Wednesday. As always, I am Bradley Clark. So thrilled, honored, and blessed that you decided to join us today. And I have an amazing guest. We're going to kick off a new series. It's the Engineer series, and I am so excited to introduce you to my guest. If you're in engineering, if you are if you have aspirations to be an engineer, if you're just somebody that likes the show, this is going to be great. Let me tell you who this guy is. My guest, Aaron Durke, hails from San Antonio and began his career at Woodgroup. And as a chemical engineer, he was one of the first employees at a revolutionary company called Imubit. It's a startup that utilizes cutting edge AI to control and optimize manufacturing plants. And while at Imubit, Aaron has transitioned from traditional engineering to product management, leading product strategy and go to market initiatives. His many experiences in his professional and personal life have given him a broad perspective on engineering, product management, and AI in general. Everyone, please make welcome my guest, and one of the best people I know, Mr. Aaron Durke. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. Really glad to be here. I like the intro. It's high energy as always.
I get in trouble for that though. I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't. Yeah, I just the energy is the energy. What are you going to do?
that's
What are you
right.
going
That's
to
right.
do?
It's who you are.
I mean, I'm trying to tell you. Even if it's at an 11, I mean, thank the Lord we don't go to 12.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I don't know. I don't even know what that means. But hey, welcome to the show, man. I'm so glad that you're able to come on and share your experiences. I got to tell you, um, I've been wanting to do this series for a while. I think around the time I started the show, I reached out to you to see if you'd be interested in coming on, or at least, if this would be something that you would want to see yourself. And you're very enthusiastic about it. Time passes, time passes, time passes. And, from a recruiting perspective, I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing that there are so many firms and engineers in general that are sort of afraid of engineering. And it doesn't matter what flavor, right? It could be petroleum, it could be chemical, it could be, whatever it is, it could be civil, it could be whatever. They're very, they're very hesitant to get into the business, and they always cite, it's very complex. And it is complex. It's a very complex. But the fact is that our whole world revolves around engineering. From from the house you're in to the coffee maker. It took some sort of design and ingenuity and engineering that makes it possible. And you're not only one of the finest engineers I know, but you're one of the best people. And so I'm just thank you for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So real quick, we went through it a little bit in your intro, but tell us a little bit about you. Your where you came from, San Antonio. How you grew up. What got you interested in engineering?
Yeah, interesting question. Actually, the intro you gave to engineering and recruiting specifically is interesting as well. I think there's kind of like I'll get to your question. I will, but I think
Sure.
there's like this interesting, somewhat of a divide where people don't know what some engineers do, and some engineers don't know what the rest of the organization might do, and it's I think there's a bit of a divide sometimes, not just in recruiting, but throughout everything that interacts with engineering. Sometimes the divide's larger or smaller, but it's interesting. And I found when you get down to it, engineers aren't necessarily that much different than other people typically. So, but yeah, my path wasn't completely dedicated towards engineering. I grew up. I had three brothers. We're all really into sports. In school, school was not my top priority in high school, but I enjoyed math. I enjoyed things like chemistry and physics, and I kind of just let that drive my decision making. I never put as much thought into it as probably I should have. But when it comes to the school I went to and the degree that I chose to study, was basically just, I liked math. I liked chemistry, so I became a chemical engineer. The classes were cool. I kind of wish, speaking of the divide and everything, I kind of wish I had put a little bit more thought into it. It turns out that it's a really cool industry and job. I've kind of transitioned into product management, still dealing with a lot of that stuff. But anyways, I kind of just lucked into it. What I studied in school is a lot different, and I think a lot of people would say the same thing, is a lot different than what I actually ended up doing. So I was fortunate in that way.
Well, and that often happens. It's what we study in school and then what we end up doing sometimes don't coincide. But when you're talking about sports, you're a rugby player. You're an active rugby player. And that's pretty cool.
Active amateur rugby player.
Well,
no, it's true. We won for our division. We won the Texas State Championship this year, so it was great.
Very cool. How important is that to be able to have that outlet? And I'm just asking this as for any professional, really, but how important is to have an outlet, like rugby or something like that, or something specifically sports related in your industry?
Just speaking for myself, it's very important to me. I stopped. I had shoulder surgery, then we had COVID, and we couldn't play for a while, and so I didn't play. Yeah. And then I just went out to a game, and I was like, "Oh, I'll go to another practice and see." And I didn't realize it until I started playing again. It's like, man, what was I doing? I didn't have this outlet, and it was hard for me to realize. I don't necessarily think everybody is that way with sports specifically. I do think people should have an outlet and should have interests and things that make them passionate, ideally in work and outside of work.
So I try, man. I try. I don't have hobbies. Well, I do and I don't. You know what I mean?
I mean,
but everybody's telling me that I need to. Sorry?
You grew up playing baseball and boxing, right?
That's right.
That's a right. Pretty intense interest.
Well, yeah, I know. Those were fun. I mean, I love baseball. It's funny. Years ago, I made friends with this guy, and he was a former baseball player, and we were talking and all this stuff, and telling him about when I played baseball, and I hadn't played in years, and I just figured, it would be like riding a bike, you know what I mean? And I kid you not, when we went to play catch one time, and he was a pitcher too. I was a pitcher, he was a pitcher, and my body had forgotten how to throw a baseball. So I had to do the one knee thing and relearn. And then after that, it was fine. But it was like, what's going on? It was the strangest thing. It was the strangest thing. I remember one time too, there was a friend of mine in the business, and he was a catcher for a semi-pro team. And we, after a night of several libations, we went in the parking lot our office, and we had a little catch session under the street lamps. That was interesting. I don't recommend it. It was I don't recommend
I don't know, it sounded good from the story.
So it was fun. It was fun then. It's just, Yeah, I don't know how many he caught, and I don't remember how many baseballs we lost, but I mean, it
Yeah.
was definitely interesting. So what inspired you though? I mean, so you're in school, you're like, okay, I like math, like chemistry. Okay, I'm going to do this. Were you recruited out of school?
Yeah. So I had a couple of internships. I ended up working for I think you talked about it already. A company called Woodgroup. Now it's called Wood.
Mhm.
But yeah, I met some really really great people. Actually, so now that you say it, it's kind of sparking a memory. The manager of our department is a really really amazing guy. And he was the manager when I was an intern there, and uh, that was, I guess, the summer of my junior year. So then I was interviewing a bunch of places. Um, he would actually drive from Houston, and I went to school at Texas A&M, so it's like a hour and a half, 2 hour drive away. Sometimes he would
Mhm.
come up and take us to lunch, ask us how we're doing, and you just got the sense that he really cared. And he was telling us, hey, go interview with these people. This is a good company. I have a connection here if you want. Um, and so that was really, really cool. And that was one of the big reasons that I chose to go back.
I appreciate that. That's the kind of recruiting I think is. I love that kind. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
For sure.
but that it also is. You don't do that unless you really do care.
Yeah. No, and
So that's
it's
really
it's
cool.
it's
But he
very. I
stayed
mean,
connected.
there's a business rationale to do that, but you could tell with him, it probably was the business rationale, but it was also genuine.
Yeah, sure,
It was cool.
sure. So you didn't really know what you wanted to do until you got to school.
You know what? I wouldn't even say that. I would say I didn't know what I wanted to do until I would say I didn't even understand what most chemical engineers did until I was out of
Yeah,
school. Um, and
really.
then yeah, yeah, and then I was doing some really cool stuff. A lot of cool simulation work and working with customers, acting as a consultant. That
Mhm.
was really great, and I enjoyed it for a couple of years. And then I started to think, maybe I want to go in a different direction, do something maybe in a different, I don't know, uh, maybe applying skill sets in a different way that has to deal with not just one specific set of projects that we were doing. So um, yeah, like I didn't realize what it was, and then I really enjoyed it, and then I learned over 2 3 4 years, hey, maybe I want to look for something different, which led me to Imubit, where we met.
Very cool. So let me ask you this: when you get an opportunity to mentor people, do you hearken back to that time where you know the guy from Wood you know came to your school and you know was actively involved in your next step?
Yeah,
Where
absolutely.
you is that kind of where you get it, or
Definitely. Well, I wouldn't say that I'm doing as good of a job at that as he was, but absolutely, I think about that. And I will say, regardless of technical talent or anything,
Mhm.
that creating a team that cares about each other and that knows that each other cares about them is completely invaluable. I think it makes people
Yeah,
work better, makes them happier. I think you're going to retain them for longer. Um, and I think little things go a long way, and then it starts to become this like this snowball effect where people trust each other more and more and like each other more and more, and these little things create this really cool team like environment that I think really
yeah.
at the end of the day, I legitimately think it creates a better product for the customer.
Oh, I agree with that as well. 1,000%. I mean, how could it not? You
Yeah,
have people that are actively, well, and you're on a team. Like you're
yeah, you're
on
in it.
well, you're like you personally, you're on a team. You're on a rugby team, right?
Oh yeah.
And if we're talking about sports and we talk about, things inside, teams inside of a work environment, really they're not, or they shouldn't be anyway, too far removed from each other. I think what you're describing is, you have a team where one makes sure that the other's doing well, right?
Hmm.
And that's really what you want because you're trying to win. You're trying to win
Yeah,
in
yeah, definitely.
maybe you're trying to win in your within your team, or you're trying to win within the industry, or whatever. But there's winning happening. You know what I mean? That
Yeah,
goes beyond
definitely.
the foosball tables and the snacks in the kitchen.
For sure. Well, so like I said, I've transitioned into a more tech facing role, still at the same company,
Yeah.
In product management, product strategy, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Prior to that, though, I was I was leading an operational team, as
Yeah.
leading our operational group, and there's a lot of tough things about that. There's
Yeah.
always fires. There's always something that needs to get done. You come to work thinking you're going to work on these things, then all of a sudden you're working on this other thing. Things are always happening, and in the moment it's tough. But once you've come out the other side and you've succeeded at whatever it is, it's like you went through all that together. And that's
Yeah.
I really love the position I'm in, but operational focused teams, I think, really see that aspect of coming through something together a lot.
Well, and you were incredible to work with. I mean, just really incredible.
Yeah,
And thank you. One thing that I loved about working with you is, there was it was very, very, very straight and very straightforward. We didn't have a whole lot of time and we really didn't,
yeah,
a whole lot of time for anything else but that.
yeah.
And I just loved that. I absolutely loved that. And also, being so close to you, I feel like that really helped me put people on your team that were like-minded. You know what I mean? Like that had your sort of, that mentality, and I hope I was right there. I think I was right.
Yeah, definitely. Well, so I think first of all, we did a good job. I think we did a good job of getting people with a very broad set of experience.
Yeah.
Different people that came from really vastly different backgrounds, but
Yeah.
all kind of consolidated into like a unified kind of team, which I thought was
Yeah.
really cool. I mean, there was a lot of people. I talk about the wins. Looking back, even some of the losses where we couldn't get a great person or something, and
Right.
how devastating that is. But even that's cool to look back on, and then seeing the team
Yeah.
as it is now, how good it is, and some of the folks, Brad, even saying like, that recruiter that you had, y'all need to get him in sales or something because he's the reason that people are coming. So, anyways, yeah, it's a really cool experience, even with the wins and the losses.
Talking about moi,
Yeah, yeah,
I got to tell you, my experience at Imubit, I absolutely, to this day, love that company, and love what Imubit does, and to have been a part of that really is an absolute joy. And I got to tell you, a lot of the, again, I agree. I remember I remember when we first started doing the 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 huddles. Remember, we'd bring them in. You give me a schematic, I'd send it to them. They
yeah,
come in
yeah,
and
yeah,
do their challenge. Remember that?
yeah.
And I remember there was one guy that came in. I think it was one of the first people that when we started doing that model, and I was so excited, and I was so, but at the end of it, he was really good, but he, he was, he wasn't great.
Mm-hmm,
Right. And
mm-hmm.
it was such even that loss, which I took it as a loss, it was so great because I didn't have to sort of dissect the information. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have to, you know what I mean? Like you were
Yeah,
so, and I think that's one of the things about a great leader is that, when it's critical, I need you to go here, 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 and here. This person, or whatever it is, whatever the feedback is, very straight, clear, and we know what we want. We know what we don't want now. And
yeah.
it was absolutely fantastic. So I totally agree. I totally agree.
Well,
So let me ask you.
oh,
Go ahead.
go ahead, Brad.
No,
I
no,
was just
please,
gonna say,
please.
yeah, yeah. I was just gonna say that the whole process, towards the end there, it was really good and streamlined, I think. But
Yeah.
we had to iterate a couple times. Getting to where we did that live
Yeah.
challenge, that was a huge breakthrough. I think,
Yeah.
I think a lot of industries are going this way for engineering and for other things. I think, I don't know. I don't know if everyone thinks this. In my opinion, it's less and less about your traditional credentials. It still matters,
Hmm.
but if you can get someone and design a challenge that makes them feel comfortable, but also really test for what you want, That's
Mhm.
so much more valuable to me, at least.
Well, and it cuts down on an immense amount of time and
Yeah.
an immense amount of wasted time.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's so many times where we had issues with you know, I remember a few times where we'd send them out, and then within the week or the week after, they would suddenly have been called by someone else, or
Yeah.
would have gotten a
No, it's
promotion or whatever it
yeah.
was, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so I've always said time kills deals, and it always does. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So the
For
more time,
sure.
so I just love the way we did that, and it just was so cohesive and just rocking. And
Yeah.
I hope it's still going on,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so you went. You're at Wood, and then working inside of refineries, right?
Well, it was in an office building doing design work for refineries. We would go out to refineries for customer meetings. I spent a couple months on site in a refinery in Alaska, but mostly in the office.
But you were there,
I was there.
right? And so you've had your time in the trenches, both behind the desk and at the site, and I love that. So now with all the experience you have, and Imubit being such an amazing AI company, and you're beginning to transition into more of a tech role. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So I'm actually over the last couple of years, I've transitioned into a product manager role. So essentially working with our software engineers and our data scientists
Mm-hmm.
um, to improve the product, decide which direction we go with the product, because there's always a trade-off.
Yeah.
I've done that, led a small team of product managers. Currently, I'm focusing on, like you said, product strategy and go-to-market. So
Yeah.
a lot of really interesting things. And it depends on how you draw the circle and how you define engineering. Maybe it's not traditional engineering, but it's still really dealing with a lot of the issues that engineers deal with, but now I'm seeing them maybe more as a customer. How can I make their lives better?
Interesting.
And understanding, having the domain expertise, and then also being connected with our technology teams, I think is very interesting to me personally.
How valuable? I would say how valuable. Like, from do you think you would have the same perspective? And I mean, maybe this is I don't know if I'm going to word this correctly or not. But do you think you'd have the same perspective if you came in as and I'll use the broad term, as a technologist, right?
Definitely not. Definitely not. And I think I'm not saying it's all advantages. There's advantages and disadvantages.
Sure.
A lot of people get into product management from software engineering, and so they have the advantage of knowing a little bit more about what it takes to build whatever functionality you want. And they can
Mhm.
maybe interact with the software engineers and the data scientists in a more natural way. I'm really trying to learn that part as well. But no, from the user side, it's been completely invaluable to me. Especially, I think it probably varies product to product, but our product is so technical, and it's literally having cutting edge AI technology on already a very technical field of chemical engineering.
Right.
So
Right.
having that domain expertise and getting to pull on that on all of the dozens or hundreds of decisions that you make every day. No, there's no way that I could have acquired this the same kind of intuition. Um,
Hmm.
Again, pros and cons, but in this case, I think it's been very beneficial for me, at least.
Where do you draw inspiration from?
Uh, Man, that's a deep question. Um, you know, I just like to be passionate about things I work on, whether it be
Hmm.
in my work or personal life. And I wouldn't say that there's any specific uh, time or incident that I remember, but there's some people in my life that are just always passionate. It's like they could be doing, like my brother's a good example. It's like he's doing some stupid home project, and like he won't stop talking about it, and he's staying up late and like not getting any sleep because that's what he wants to be doing. And I've been in states in my work life, like I said, transitioning to Imubit, I was kind of looking for something new. And then in my personal life where I've gone through phases of everything's fine, nothing's wrong, but I'm not super passionate about something. And then when I am
Mhm.
really passionate, that's I don't know, that's the way I like to live. So there's a handful of people that are just always passionate about something.
Mhm.
I think that's what I aim to do.
To be passionate about something.
To be passionate about something.
Yeah.
Ideally about many things.
Right.
I know I didn't really answer your question, but no, there's a couple of people in my life that are really like that, and I kind of can think of them. I'm like, man, that's a good way to live your life, you know.
Well, I totally get it. How do you think? And maybe some people, when I ask this question, they could think of it in many ways. Um, and I'm not coming at this just to let you know from a get off my lawn standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Not that. But every year, just like the NBA, we just had the NBA draft, right? And every year you have teams that are adding new people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're getting them from different places, and they're drafted different teams, and this and that. But it's setting up for the really a continual generational, ongoing sport that we love in basketball. Now, you've worked with a cross section of people, from really senior, engineers, really that I know have poured into your life,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, what I'm curious about is for one, do you know, and knowing you probably don't. We talked a little bit about this afternoon. There's lots of people that will be able to look at their career and look at their life and credit Aaron Durke for inspiring them, for showing them sometimes how to do something, or maybe in their lowest moment, telling them and showing them that they can do something.
Mm-hmm.
How well, okay. Do you find that be do you find that as years progress that there are people within engineering that they sort of come off, and this is multi-generational from as far back as making the wheel, I'm sure, but that they already know everything, there's nothing else for them to learn until they find out they have to learn it. Do you find that sort of the newer engineers are open to learning? Do you think that's a
I,
constant trait within, or do you think that those generational sort of biases are they even relevant in what you do or what you did?
I would say at Imubit at least, I think the population of engineers that we get is completely skewed because it's like you're
Oh
coming
yeah.
from these really traditional companies to a
Hmm.
startup with brand new technology, that isn't there in the
Right.
industry.
Right.
And you're willing to take all of the changes that come with it. So we've gotten we've gotten a lot of people across many generations, and I would say 90%, maybe 100% of them are super willing to, not just willing to learn, excited to learn.
Like they want to learn.
Like they want to learn. Now,
Yeah.
maybe to answer your question, and like I said, I can only answer it uh, from my perspective, but I will say the resumes that we're getting do skew younger. So I don't know if that means
Mhm.
that younger people are looking for that kind of thing more than more experienced people. I'm not sure, but even the experienced people we got, yeah, they came in and they wanted to learn, and you don't really have a choice. The technology is so different. If you're not going
Yeah.
to learn it quickly, you're not going to be able to do anything.
Mm-mm. Well,
So no, I've seen a lot of really cool stories
well,
in that.
because you get this a lot, with and I had a really interesting interview with someone who we were sort of talking about the biases that more senior people have toward junior people, and then the
Mhm.
biases that junior people have toward senior people. And it was really interesting, sort of how to look at that in a more traditional tech-based, company. She ran HR at a tech startup,
Mhm.
completely different than Imubit, more, traditional software engineering, right?
Mhm.
Or anyway, software development sort of stuff. But it was interesting because I agree with you. I completely agree with you. Is that it was such a cross section, and you had no choice
Yeah,
but
yeah,
to learn.
yeah,
Coming in as someone who is an incredible, tenured engineer, it was, I don't know. I remember talking to a few people that I placed there, and it was like they were excited because it's kind of felt like they were like their career had started over again,
yeah, yeah.
you
Well,
know?
even on the other end of it, we had some very experienced people, and I'm almost a little, I don't know the right word, a more mild word for intimidated, but I'm even a little intimidated. There's this person that's supposed to be reporting to me, and they have their resumes like incredible, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so I think there's naturally like I don't know, um, some
But
little just mental thought there. But once you get there and once you get going, it's like,
yeah.
I think people start to respect each other. It's like, oh, I respect all this experience you have, and they respect
Yeah.
all this new technology that I might know about.
Well, and they respect the experience you have, because your
Yeah.
experience, the experience that you have, is different than the experience
Yeah.
they have.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So all of
Yeah.
that sort of, all of the things, that was one of the great things about Imubit, is that, all of the things that you would traditionally think would be a block here, or, or a mental issue here. And for some people it was, not, they didn't go through, you know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
we were able to weed those out pretty quick. But for the people that started, when I was there, it was, I loved that, because it was just, there was nothing, there was a lot of mutual respect, you
Yeah.
know, and it was really great. It was really great. So, it's one of those things where, you look at the sort of the industry as a whole, and you see some of these things happen. And when you get in a situation that really doesn't have that, when you strip it all away, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool situation to be in,
Yeah. Definitely.
because it's not, it's rare,
Yeah.
you know? So
Hmm.
that's pretty cool. So who, like, okay, so you mentioned the person was there someone that, kind of took you under their wing, and sort of guided you early on?
Yeah. Good question. So at Woodgroup, definitely, I could name
Mhm.
3 or 4 mentors that were, you know, first of all, very intelligent. I learned a lot from, but also went out of their way to kind of take me under their wing a little bit.
Mhm.
And that was great. That was really great. Like the department manager, his name was Ed Palmer. Ray Shipman, Becca Bundick. A lot of people were really great mentors. Um, when I joined Imubit, I was actually the first engineer that we hired in the U.S., first or second.
Mhm.
And so there really wasn't so much. Just what we were doing was I was going with the CEO to various customers, and we were essentially piloting our technology. And eventually we proved that the technology worked and grew and grew.
Yeah.
But I would say that the CEO is definitely one of them, of
Mhm.
Emibit. He but he's a CEO too. He has so much on his plate. He can't
Sure.
always just dedicate time to mentoring one person. We've made some really great hires. I was leading our product team uh, for some time. I think maybe a year or two, and then we hired a VP of engineering.
Mhm.
He was really great. And eventually, I was working with him so much, I kind of essentially asked him to mentor me. He kind of already was, and so that worked. That was really good. It turned out later that we moved product under him, which I think was a good move. Eventually, then we hired a VP of product, who's, I would say, my mentor now. He's really great. So working under him now. So at first, when I started Imubit, it was kind of like the CEO, but it was more like, hey, we're running as fast as we can.
Right.
And then we hired those two people, Yaniv and then Ron.
Well, so you have been and are a leader yourself. And so what were some of the things that they taught you that you've been able to pass down? And then what is it about, from what you learned from them, how have you been able to incorporate that into your own style
That's a really,
in
really
mentoring?
great question. That's a great question. Um, from Yaniv, I learned something really cool about. So in product, you're working a lot with software engineers, also with data
Yeah.
scientists in our case. Um, my job as a product manager isn't just to define what we want to do and have a strategy about, about where we're going to take the product and write requirements for new features that we need to build. I
Yeah.
need to connect with the software engineers and the data scientists in a way that they can start to empathize with the problem, because from their perspective, they're engineers and they don't have the domain expertise. And if they can empathize with the problem, and if we can build a relationship where we're solving this problem together, then we can really they can do a lot better work. I can do a lot better work, and it's cool. You can see it snowball. It's like they ask a question, and I'm able to explain it in a way that they can understand, and now they can go and tell me, oh, the way that we're building this, I think we should tweak this or that, and it kind of is like a really cool snowball effect again. So getting getting being able to empathize with people and being able to understand exactly what they need to know, and it's not just give them their exact thing. It's like help them as much as you can, help them understand. Don't just have it be a here's my responsibility and your responsibility transaction. Have it be a we're going to holistically work on this problem together.
Mhm.
And so I've been able to take that both with working with other product managers and with operational teams and even with customers, where it's like it's a much more rich and robust way of working with each other, where people understand each other's problems and motivations, instead of just I need this from you and I need to deliver that to you or whatever it is. So that's been a really cool lesson to learn about. And then from Ron, the VP of product, uh, I've learned a lot from him about it connects to our previous conversation, to not just rely on domain expertise. There's a lot. It's like be aware of the things that you might not know. So, okay, I have this great experience in whatever it is. I've done
Mhm.
this type of project before. Don't just lean on that. Do some research. Go just do some regular research on your own. Ask some other people, and more importantly, mentally challenge yourself. Try to prove your own opinion wrong. You know.
You're
So
talking
that's been
about Ron from Imubit?
yeah,
Oh man, I
yeah,
like him a lot.
yeah,
He's a
yeah.
cool
He's
guy.
great.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It was fun. It was fun to work with him. And then, did you mention a third?
I was talking about Yaniv, who is the
Oh, you need
previous
okay.
VP of engineering.
And so, with all of these things and all of these great experiences that you learned, and that all these things that you taught, how did you incorporate that into your leadership style? Like
I
specifically, and
think
not in the abstract, but
yeah, okay.
specifically, because
So one of them, okay, talking about trying to understand the things that you're unaware of.
mhm,
So you could take that into having a new hire, and from the interview process, which I think was very good, and whatever, from their background, you're saying, okay, we need to put them in this situation, this project. It's like, maybe no. Maybe let's let them come in. Let's give them as much as we can, and then let's observe for a little while. And then we'll know
mhm,
better where we need to put them or what we need to help them develop, something like that.
yeah,
I think just taking a step back sometimes while still moving as fast as you can is
sure.
something that I have taken forward for sure.
That is so cool, and I can totally see that. I can totally see that, and that's fantastic. You know, one of the things that I think is pretty cool, and from observing you and sort of watching you work and working with you, and I mean, a couple times hanging out after work, in the I don't know what would we call it, the pit. Is that
Yeah,
what we
that's
call
it.
it? Um, I saw people. I mean, here I will tell you straight out from my first day at Imubit, and I'm pretty good at what I do, or at least I'm good at what I did. My first day, everyone was so cool and so nice, and especially you. And and I look around and I'm like, these are people are stone geniuses. These like really smart people. And it was intimidating for me. And I'm not easily intimidated.
Hmm.
And one thing that I always loved was the respect everyone gave for everyone's particular talent
Yeah,
or area of specialty.
yeah,
It was fantastic, you know, and it was almost, it was a little unbelievable at times too. It was just like, how is this even possible? Like really, and it really was like that. And one thing I loved about watching you, and not and going beyond watching you, but watching the people around you, they wanted to perform well for you. They wanted to perform well for the team. Hold on. They wanted to perform well for the company. They wanted to perform well for themselves. And that is not easy to instill. Like you could have a team full of A's, right? Type A's, driven, go for it, competitive, and there's, not to say that there's not competition, not to say, hey, I'm going to prove that I'm good and, and we're better and, or whatever, I mean, to use a sports analogy, look, we're all pretty high functioning. We want to get things done and we want to do it. I'm not trying to paint a utopia here.
hmm,
But one thing that I loved about, just seeing you as a leader is that people really wanted to work. They really wanted to work well for you. And I think part of that is you help them want to do great for themselves. I don't know. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Personally, personally, I loved it because, we were working very closely together, and I never uh I you were just someone you want to perform well for. And a uh, it's not easy to achieve that. So I'm wondering, is that something that just comes naturally? Is that something that was taught, or is that
I,
something that you've developed?
I think it's kind of contagious, you know. I think there was a lot of people on the team that had that quality, and I think it's
Mhm.
contagious. The one that sticks out
Yeah.
the most, she was a team lead for us, and it's like um, very smart, great engineer.
Yeah.
But I think her best quality was this exactly what you're saying. You know,
Yeah.
whenever something's hard, that's the glue that holds it together. You know, and
Yeah.
uh, I don't know if it comes naturally for some people more than others. I'm not so sure. I am pretty confident that it's contagious, and I've seen it in sports and companies. Like in sports, I've seen good and bad, and it makes you
Yeah.
feel that way too. You know, you want to do the same, and it snowballs again.
Cool. That's really cool. Yeah, I agree. I agree. So let me ask this. You had a very, I would say, I don't know, untraditional uh, path toward engineering, which, if you know you, it totally fits, and it yeah, makes perfect sense, and I love that. But for those people that are, thinking about getting into engineering, thinking about getting in, they were where you were. I don't know what I want to do. What do I like? What's your advice to them?
I guess two pieces of advice. The first one is that don't be intimidated. Like I was kind of talking about it and before, there's this weird divide thing where it's like people don't really know what engineers are. They're just like those weird
Yeah.
introvert smart people, but it's not that
Right.
hard. It's not. I mean, everything's hard in its own way, and this is just hard in one of those ways. It doesn't. Anybody, if they put their mind to it, can do it. So that's the first piece.
Mhm.
The second piece is I wish that I had thought more about what exactly I want to do, and gone out and intentionally experienced a lot of things to figure it out. There's a
Mhm.
lot of different routes to get to different ways, but don't just stumble upon it. Don't just take the path of least resistance like I did. I think I got very lucky in kind of getting into a nice space, but don't take the path of least resistance. Go and figure out what you want, and try something and fail at it, or try something and figure out you don't like it and move 50 times, but end up in a really cool place where you can be passionate.
One more. How important, and this is for anything, but we're talking about engineering. I'm talking about engineers, and I agree with you. And I love that advice. How important is your support system?
I don't necessarily think it's different for engineers. I think it'd probably be pretty similar for everyone. But for me, it's completely it's critical. I like to think I don't really get I don't really get down too much, or I don't really get too stressed out all the time. But when I do, it's like the most comforting thing to know that I have my wife or my three brothers, or some friends or some amazing coworkers that will help me through it. If you've ever been in a situation where you are stressed out and you're not able to interact with those types of people, that's really tough. So I don't know, Brad, if I'm answering your question, but
Well,
absolutely. And I think you should try to have a support system in a lot of different areas. I don't think it's enough just to say I'm really close with my brother or whatever. I mean, that's great, but I think you should seek support systems in all aspects of your life.
and I agree. It's critical in anything you do. I'm really what I'm trying to convey here is, again, people find engineers and engineering, the whole idea, incredibly intimidating. When you go on in Houston, we have these structures that reach to the heavens that we drive over. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And so when people think of that and they think of, wow, I'm driving my car, however many, feet in the air, and realizing that it took an engineer to come up with the design, and then it took people to build it. And you know what I'm saying? It becomes something of, engineers become sort of like these mythological, you know, people that it's like, don't talk to them,
Yeah.
just, and then engineers themselves have this reputation for being so incredibly, Einstein, not to say there aren't, I mean, everybody at Imubit was a dead stone genius, but unapproachable and
Yeah.
lacking personality, and well, I mean, you can't, the interview's going to be in, they're not going to talk, and it's just so, it's such ridiculous, pseudo, you know what I mean?
Actually,
So
I know exactly what you mean, and maybe I took your question too generally, but I know 100% what you mean. And so when I was actually applying for Imubit, I was all stressed out. I really wanted to get the job. I knew I wasn't really qualified exactly. Um, yeah, so I had my brother help me make this video to like show that I was interested. Did like a million practice interviews with various
yeah,
people. The first ones that were very bad. Having that is huge, and I think it's not just in interviewing and getting jobs, but through school. I was privileged enough to go to a good high school and to have people
hmm,
make me do my homework and stuff. So I didn't necessarily experience that when deciding to be an engineer or getting my education, but definitely when applying to the job, or like, shoot, when you're giving a presentation in front of a bunch of new people you haven't, to
yeah.
be able to reach out to someone and let yourself feel vulnerable and get their advice, their true, genuine advice is really important for sure.
It's huge, right? you
Yeah.
know and
Yeah.
so, and and part of me feels like I don't want to bust the myth. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
part of me just feels, oh, yes, absolutely. Oh, you know, but in another sense, it's like anything else. I love what you said. What did you say? And everything's hard. It's just, this is, and
Yeah. This is just hard in a different way.
hard in a different way, and I love it. And you know what? It's supposed to be hard. It has to be
Yeah.
hard. It's the hard that makes it great. To
Yeah.
quote League of Their Own, you know. Um, I love that movie, but that's true. It's the hard that makes it great,
Yeah.
and I love that. Aaron, we are gonna, and I please stick with me. We are gonna come back with final thoughts in just a moment. But stay right there. Don't go anywhere. Okay.
All right.
I will be right back, and we'll have more with Aaron Durke in just a moment. We're going to be having final thoughts here in just a second, but I wanted to tell you where tell you a little bit about our sponsors and who is sponsoring this show and final thoughts and everything else. But wanted to let you know. Hold on, I'm being my own producer right now. If you have anything and everything and all the things that you want documented via video or advertising, things like this, go to White Husky Films. All you got to do is dream, create, record in that order. And when you choose White Husky, you'll be so glad you did. Everything from testimonials to music videos to podcasts to billboards in Times Square, if you can believe it. Get a hold of White Husky Films. You can reach them at www.whitehuskyfilms.com. Again, dream, create, record in that order. When you choose White Husky, you'll be so glad you did. And we got Klein's Jewelry, Jane's PT, Jane's Physical Therapy, still looking for 428 physical therapists and physical therapy assistants in the Baton Rouge and New Orleans area. If you're interested, please go to Janes, JAYNESPT.com and get a hold of us and give us a call at 713-364-8777. And I'm telling you, you will be able to you'll be able to enhance your life while enhancing the lives of others. And it really is an incredibly rewarding way to practice physical therapy. It's just Casey Janes is second to none, and you can get to know Casey actually from Work Your Career Wednesday. Just go to the Work Your Career Wednesday page, look up Casey Janes interview, and get a chance to really get to know who Casey Janes is. Now we'll get to Klein's Jewelry. Klein's Jewelry, Houston legend. I tell you what, if you've gotten engaged in the Houston area, chances are you're wearing a Klein's diamond. But they ship all throughout the country. Mark Klein and his family, second to none. Everyone that works at Klein's Jewelry, they are absolutely fantastic. So give them a call at 832-316-1388 or 281-381-9848. They got a brand new location. In addition to the location that they have over on Woodway, go to 9311 Katy Freeway in Headwood Village. And go on by their incredible showroom. I was there not too long ago, and it just is fantastic. And seriously, go over there. They're great. Jewelry design second to none. And you know what? I got to tell you, John of John Breaks Bad News. If you have any bad news to break, you want to get a hold of John at John Breaks Bad News. If you're not one of his 1.2 million followers on social media, then I got to tell you, he is hilarious. Catch his show and every hilarious reel from on Instagram and TikTok. But if you need bad news broken, just go to johnbreaksbadnews.com and do all the things that you have to do to submit your bad news that you want broken, and he will definitely break it for you. He is an amazing guy, and catch his show right here on Work Your Career Wednesday. Incredible guy. And you know what? Let's just all say it together, a resounding, I love you. And he does. He loves you too. So get a hold of John. He is great. And we just love him here. He's a good friend of the show. And really, we love you, John. We love you. All right. So get ready. We are going to come back with our friend Aaron Durke, and he is going to join us for final thoughts. So stay tuned. Hold on. We will be right back. All right, everybody, we are back. We are back with final thoughts. Hold on. See, this is what happens sometimes, when you have to be your own producer on occasion. You don't have the final. Oh, wait a minute. Am I in the wrong thing? I was in the wrong thing. I was in the wrong part of the menu. That's what we want to show up. Final thoughts. Oh man, Aaron. First of all, thank you so much for coming on today. I really wanted, we talked about the engineering series, and I really wanted to start it off with you. You have my utmost respect. I just think the absolute world of you, but you know that. And I really wanted my audience to be introduced to you and really get, a feel for what it takes. And sometimes, in a non-traditional way, getting to where you need to go, and a little bit demystifying, you know, engineering in a little bit. So thank you so much for coming on. So final thoughts. It's a new segment that I started doing. I don't know 3 weeks ago, and just with different takeaways. And Aaron, I wanted to give you the opportunity to share whatever is on your heart, whatever's on your mind, knowing that the people that watch the show, they range the gamut from people that are tenured in whatever they do to I mean it just runs like I said, it runs the gamut of professional spectrum. And but there's a lot of folks that either are engineers or have kids that are engineers or whatever. And again, and you can attest from your own experience, there's not a whole lot of people that are willing to give so freely of their time and experience. And so I wanted to give you an opportunity to speak to those people and close us off with something awesome. The floor is
Okay,
yours,
man, you're
sir.
putting me on the spot. Putting me on the spot.
For you, man, look, all spots are great, so I love it. So
Yeah, that's right.
let's have it.
So for people looking into a job in engineering, I guess I'd say this. It's look, it is there are obviously technical aspects of the job, and the education is somewhat technical. I will say this: it's not so challenging. There's a lot of people that have done it that probably you sitting there have just as good or better of a technical capabilities or potential as they do. I would even go further and say, now there are some people that are just technical and they are incredibly valuable. I would say for most engineers, what's really going to propel your career more is not just your technical abilities, but your resourcefulness and your ability to work with different personnels and your ability to be flexible and your ability to be intellectually curious, not just only in the technical things, but on the business and strategic side as well. So I would say, one, don't worry about whether you have to be good at math. Anyone can do it. And then two, when you get there, don't just lean into the technical part. Lean into it, yeah, if you want to. That's good. It will help your career. But there's so much else out there that will also help your career. And then I think you gave me one more thing to end on, an awesome thing. I can't really think of anything. But I will say my little brother is a industrial psychologist. And for all those people thinking about jobs, he told me a statistic that was really cool. And it was like, it showed, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was essentially like what people thought would make them happy in their job. And it was like, I need to get to this career or that position or whatever. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's, oh, my coworkers are like this, or I like my boss, or I get to eat lunch with my spouse or whatever it is. So, right. Getting a great job is very important, but there's a lot of different flavors of great jobs. So it's not just your title and your position.
That is fantastic. And I'm going to ask one more thing, probably guilty of putting you on the spot again. But if you can think of it, what's the one piece of advice that you can give that you wish you would have gotten that never came? What's something looking back you'd be like, man, I wish somebody would have told me X.
Give me a minute here, Brad.
Well, but you know what? You may have already said it. Where you were talking about how you kind of came to it, and you wish you would have been more
Yeah,
deliberate.
so that's one for sure. Yeah. So I definitely wish someone would have told me to be deliberate about and intentional about where you want to go in your career, because there's so many incredible things to do, and to just
Right.
walk into it because I don't know, some people are, but most 16, 17, 18-year-olds aren't career focused, but they're about to make
Sure.
decisions that have huge implications on their life. Yeah, so definitely try to be deliberate. And it's not like you can just know. You can't go on the internet and research whatever it is, what a supply chain manager does, and then know whether you're going to like it or not. But what you can do is do the research and then go try something and make some connections and some contacts. So I I would definitely, again, give that as a piece of advice. I'd also say it's going to sound contradictory, but it's not. Don't think that you're making these decisions and it's a small butterfly flap is going to cause your life to be good or bad. Don't sweat it. Like you have so many chances to change, and regardless of the industry you go into, if you're a good worker and you're smart and and hardworking, you'll find a good position. So I guess that as well.
I love that. It's almost like it's one thing that I say. It's like the best MBA is starting a business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, definitely.
Aaron, thank you so much for joining me today to kick off our engineer series. If you want to get a hold of Aaron, find him on LinkedIn. And again, thank you so much. Thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's great being here.
For all of us at Work Your Career Wednesday and White Husky Films, Jane's Physical Therapy, Klein's Jewelry, and Courtney Turek, and I don't know, our friends at Puente Coffee, John Breaks Bad News, know this, that all of us love you and God bless you. And let his face shine upon you and give you great peace. Be excellent to yourself and each other. And you know what? Be excellent to everyone. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.